Hi, thank you for your interest in joining this session today on CLIL for primary. My name is Christopher Sheen, and I work with Oxford University Press, and I'm based here in the office in Turkey, in Istanbul. Now, when I was asked to share some thoughts on CLIL and give the presentation for today, the first thing I thought of was, who might be my audience? What do I know about Pakistan? I mean, I've not been there yet, but I know some things. For example, I knew that Pakistan became a country, an independent nation in 1947. And I also know that you're a cricket mad country. And I also knew that Pakistan speaks English. But then I asked myself, is that accurate? So I Wikipedia'd Pakistan, and I learned that there's something called Pakistani English. Now, this is something new to me, but I'm not surprised. A lot of countries have their own version of English, let's say. Well, the session today is in English, or maybe Canadian English. But nevertheless, the point is that language, in this case English, can take on many different forms when we begin to apply it to specific contexts. So we'll start today using Kachru's three-circle model, which helps us understand English globally from a three categories perspective. And the first is the inner circle of English, where the L1 users include countries like the United Kingdom, America, Canada. And there's a second outer circle, and that considers countries like Malaysia or Singapore to be English as a second language in nature. And I've learned that Pakistan falls into this category. And the third circle, expanding, which is larger than the other two combined, are the countries that use English as a foreign language. And though I'm not deeply familiar with Pakistan, I know it's not in the first circle, and even though it has English as a second official language, this might not be accurately reflective of your teaching context. You may find yourself teaching in what feels more like an EFL context, or somewhere between EFL and ESL. So let's start with the basics. What is CLIL? At the end of this presentation, I'll share my email, and you are welcome to email me with any comments or questions, or to ask for a copy of this presentation, an uneditable copy. But just in case, I'd like to encourage you to take some notes throughout the session today for some key points. All right, so get your pen, get your paper. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Okay. All right, so this is what CLIL is. So now that we know what CLIL is, sorry, you didn't get that? You want me to replay it? No? Actually, if you'd like a great resource for CLIL, I can recommend this book from Oxford University Press. But in the meantime, here's a key quote from it. It's obvious that teaching a subject in a foreign language is not the same as the integration of language and content. So sometimes it can really help us understand something if we know what it isn't. Key to remember about us as ELT teachers is that we are not content teachers, not primarily. We are language teachers first, who may happen to be teaching content. Whether we are teachers in an ESL or EFL context, we do not have the case where we can teach content straight away without any language support. Now, let's think of a simple example. If you are in an L1 context of English, then the students not only use words like add or subtract for math class, they are also exposed to those words in other subjects or in other areas of life. That is to say, they already bring most of the necessary language with them to class. What we're attempting to do in the ESL and in the EFL is get them closer to that point. So here are the 4 parts of our session today. They're full of acronyms that if you don't know, you'll be more aware of them by the end when we get to part 5, the conclusion. So this session looks at classroom language in the context of CLIL. keeping with the flow of circles, let's look closer. So BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills. We need to get to know our students better. And we've all experienced great classes where a key contributing factor was that the students were able to use the language to talk about themselves and their world. So here are a few tips when focusing on BICS. The first one, give them time. What is the most common reply to, how are you? How are you? Pardon? Did I just hear you say fine, thanks, and you? Probably. It's the universal default answer to that question. And no wonder. How are you is a highly common question. It's usually asked first, and it's usually asked quickly, giving that person a feeling like I should respond quickly. However, if we want diverse answers, we need to help set the conditions for that. There's a concept called think time, which basically says that if you give students a little more time to answer, they may surprise you with a better answer. So next time, why not try this? Tell students in 30 seconds you will ask them question X, and to think of 2 to 3 different responses for that. So when a classmate says an answer, then that answer is no longer used by others. And then they're encouraged to use a different answer. Also, don't interrupt. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but we as teachers, we need to hold back a little bit more from finishing our sentences, the students' sentences, or jumping in to overcorrect. 3, I'm not a gamer, so I'm not that interested in video games. However, I can be interested in why my students are interested in them. And when you show that kind of genuine interest, the students will respond with stronger efforts. And 4, give the other students chances to reply to classmates' answers. Rather than adding your own comment, you could try saying, interesting. Mehmet, what do you think about what Merve said? Spread the speaking around. If you happen to teach a standard textbook with random topics, you could make a rotating question chart like this. Each day, everyone gets to know more about each other, and the grammar, the question sets, they stay familiar, right? So that the kids can get used to the vocab and the grammar structures. So they will hear their friends being asked the same questions that they might have to answer about themselves the next day. If you happen to be using a course book based on inquiry-based methodology, for example, Oxford Discover, this is the second edition, or if you are a communicative language teacher at heart, then you can be more intentional with your question set and base them around the unit themes. It could look like something like this. So here, units 1 and 2 of this edition, this level, the overriding theme has animals in it. So if you put in questions that they might already know, fused with some of the new vocabulary such as scales and fur, and use those questions to get to know your students better, that language will also help prepare them for later stages in the content part of the lesson. Now, the next circle usually involves language for more off-task things such as routines. In face-to-face lessons, all of these apply, and having students have the necessary language to interact in these situations is also part of CLIL. The teacher does not always need to be the person taking the attendance. You don't need the practice. Your students need the language practice. Now, online, tidying the classroom may not be so relevant, so let's minimize it here. However, the students can be asked to check attendance. Give them the attendance list. Mehmet, are you here? For settling down and getting attention, a student can be designated to say specific phrases or show something to the camera to get attention. For example, I use this funny rubber chicken. It always gets their attention. Could a student not also use something of their choice? The same applies to handing out and collecting resources or entering and leaving the classroom. This is all language, classroom language, that assists the smoothness of the class. And I'll be referring to some other examples later on in the presentation. But whether it's online or face-to-face, you should be looking at giving your students this type of language and let them do the speaking. The class rules are also included in this category. And chief to think about is the element of fairness. I'll show you a short video clip that I think is related to fairness. Why? The point is that we are still the big people. Primary kids still look heavily to us for guidance, and they will listen to us, usually anyhow, but if we appear to be very fair, they will want to listen to us, and they will also want to follow the rules.
Hey, wait up! Wait up! That's what kids say. They don't say wait. They say, wait up! Hey, wait up! Because when you're little, your life is up, the future is up, everything you want is up. Wait up, hold up, shut up. Mom, I'll clean up, let me stay up. Parents, of course, are just the opposite. Everything's down, just calm down. Slow down. Come down here, sit down, put that down.
Why do I show this clip? I think it's pretty funny, but I think it does show fairness. It's kind of saying that, like, we're the big people, so we're going to have the authority anyway. But why not be fair about it? Because in their world, everything is up. They're not going to win this power struggle. So let's be fair about it, and they will be more willing to participate. So we're looking at fairness. And we can do classroom rules, the language for it, by consensus. Right? We can do class polls on Zoom. You can set something up where the question is asked and they can put in Y for yes or N for no or 1 for yes and 2 for no. They can interact this way too. Why? Because you need some structure to your lessons for the year. And if they're expected to do these type of routines, they will need regular routine language to do it. Nevertheless, be patient and by all means be realistic. Rules can be made and agreed to quickly, but they may take some time to become habit. The third classroom language to consider in CLIL is English for instructions or monitoring or feedback. Okay? And now this example, we'll be looking at using it for instructions. So for instructions, please consider if you agree or disagree with this statement. I think that when planning a lesson, I should think about both the content and language I will use at various stages. Maybe I agree with it, but have I been doing it? Let's try a little task to see how this is important, okay? Now I'm going to give you 8 instructions. So please take out your pen, your paper. I'm serious this time. I'm not going to play a joke this time. Take out your pen and your paper, okay? And I'm going to ask you to draw something with these 8 instructions. I'll give, let's say, 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds between each one, just to let you process it and draw it, okay? If you happen to have an A4 piece of paper, that would be better, but a small notebook could also work, okay? So please listen to my 8 instructions carefully. Keep in mind that the picture will use words that are easy for you, the English teacher. But imagine asking primary students to do this task, okay? All right, here we go. Are you ready? The first one, please draw on your paper a box. Please draw a box. Pretty simple so far, huh? Number 2, draw a triangle above the box. Number 3, draw 2 squares in the box. Draw 2 squares in the box. Four, draw a quadrilateral in the box. Draw a quadrilateral in the box. Are some of you looking in the dictionary? Don't be looking in the dictionary. Don't be looking at your phone. Draw a quadrilateral. Number 5, draw two triangles next to the box. Draw 2 triangles next to the box. Number 6, draw 2 rectangles under those 2 triangles. Draw 2 rectangles under those 2 triangles. Seven, draw a circle somewhere above the box. Draw a circle somewhere above the box. And finally, number 8, draw some lines on the circle. Draw some lines on the circle. Now, because you've been a good students, and you have all been listening closely, I haven't heard any noise in the class. I'm going to review the instructions, okay? So please look at your picture, make sure you're happy with this. 1, draw a box. 2, draw a triangle above the box. 3, draw 2 squares in the box. 4, draw a quadrilateral in the box. 5, draw 2 triangles next to the box. 6, draw 2 rectangles under the triangles. 7, draw a circle somewhere above the box. 8, draw some lines on the circle. Now, I wonder what your picture looks like. Would you like to see mine? I hope it's the same, because we shared the same set of instructions. Does it look like this? Does it look even a little bit like this? Well done if it does. What went wrong if it doesn't? I wasn't using Pakistani English, but I know you can understand this one. What went wrong with your pictures, guys? Why doesn't it look like this? I gave you clearly 1, 2, 3, 8 sets of instructions. Okay, well, here's what I ask you to do. But if we speak the same language, in this case English, why might yours or your students' pictures look different? The reason is because what I wanted you to draw was not supported by the language that I gave you. So let's look closely. I wanted a square, but I said draw a box. If you drew something 3-dimensional, yours is actually more accurate to what I said. I also said draw a triangle above the box. This is clearly not above, this is on. And I said, please draw 2 squares inside the box. I didn't say top left or top right. I didn't say the size. And in this one, of course, everybody knows what a quadrilateral is. Everyone knows it has 4 sides. It could be a rectangle, it could be a square, it could be a rhombus. But if I wanted you to draw this, I think I should choose vocabulary that I'm certain everyone knows. I also said to draw 2 triangles. I didn't say which side of the box. And for the rectangles, I didn't say skinny or fat or thin or slightly medium. I didn't give any context about what it should look like. And when I said draw a circle somewhere above the box, I could have given you more help about which side of the picture. And the lines, they need to be a little bit more explicit how I want them drawn. The moral of the story is, if you want a certain outcome, then be sure to give them supportive language to do it, even if it means taking the extra time, your extra time, to plan and teach the needed language. CLIL is also about planning the language you're going to be using the students need to better access the understanding of content. Lastly, we come to Calp. Now, Calp is not the nicest ever sounding acronym, that's for sure. This is the center of the target of CLIL, and the BICS and the ECR, the EFI, EMF, these are all helping you get towards the content. Because remember, we're language teachers. We could stay outside of that circle, on the outside of it, and still the kids could be learning some English. But if we want them to learn the content through the English, we've got to go through these other circles before we can really get into the heart of the content. And that's the cognitive, the academic, where a lot of our students are going to be needing to think cognitively. They're going to need to be considering academic success, right? That's the direction they might be going in their life, or at least we need to prepare them for that. And so this center addresses the heart of CLIL. So looking at a sample from Oxford Discover 2nd edition again, here is a creative project about making a mixture book. Giving presentations is one aspect of preparing our students for the academic world. So I'd like to share an example of a teacher in Ankara, Turkey. She was using Oxford Discover 1st edition in her grade 2 class. So she felt that her students needed not only to understand the content, but in addition needed to be better at using it in project presentations. So even something as simple as, for example, it helped them sound more academic in their presentation. So she decided to post it in iView on the classroom wall. And it was working. When the students would get up to give their presentation or project or something, rather than just saying, you know, this is soup, it's a mixture of solids and liquid. In this example, they would say, this is soup, it's a mixture of solids and liquid. For example, the solid is, for example, the liquid is. It really added to the presentation. Based on this success, she decided to add more for the other classroom language that she needed too. And it worked. However, she found that even though the students were looking for the English phrases, they couldn't always find them on demand. Or sometimes they wouldn't know the best one to choose for the situation. So she put on her creative think time type of cap. And to lower her own teacher talk time and help the students increase their student talk time, and to be able to get into the academic content of the lesson more quickly and more efficiently, she added numbers to the classroom language. And this worked very well, as she or the students could help each other by referring to the number that would help. If somebody was giving their project presentation and they forgot to say, for example, she could just do this, meaning the number 15. Or she might say, Mehmet, number 15, and he would look, and he would find it, and he would put it into his presentation. Very creative, very smart, very effective. She looked for space, and she added them to their in-classroom lockers. She had found a way to help students get support for classroom language autonomously. This is the kind of direction our students need to go in, to have this language so they will be better able to access the content closer to how that inner group circle does. These are the language phrases and the vocab that the students that use English as an L1, they already have. Our students need to acquire this. and they need to be exposed to it intentionally and often. So some final examples of classroom language include the following. If you can use such classroom language in the right place at the right time, all intentionally to support the BICS, the ECR, the EFI, the EMI, and Calp, then your CLIL lessons will help students learn both content and language. Lastly, as mentioned, I've not been to Pakistan, but in Turkey, some schools recognize the value of having English throughout the school. And in the CLIL environment, this can be extra supportive. So in summary, classroom language for CLIL can be summed up as, it's not the same as just teaching a subject in a foreign language. Teachers best use CLIL, the classroom language for it, intentionally. And lastly, though CLIL is a methodology, it doesn't have to be constricting. Quite the opposite. If you can be creative teaching content, then you can also be very creative when you integrate the supporting language into your lesson. Thank you very much for your attention. I can be reached at my email, as I mentioned. It's here, christopher.sheen@OUP. And I would like to turn it over to the organizer of the conference. And I look forward to your Q&A. Administration, over to you. Thank you.